Welcome to Making a Murderer, Rubberducky video channel. Welcome back and hold on to your cups because I'm going to tell you something. We're starting a very bumpy ride this week and we're finding out a lot. So stay tuned on the RD Making a Murderer Daily MaM Reading and welcome to part 73. Page 721 was set up and that he was innocent. Thomas also said Scott told him that Steven was at his house the week of the search warrant on his property. It was also heard by Thomas after Brendan was arrested. Scott had told people he had seen stains on the kid's clothes and that there was something weird with the kid for the last couple months. Thomas said Scott said he was acting weird and not himself. Thomas said Scott expressed to him at a certain point that he thought Steven may have molested Brendan because Brendan was always with Steven. Thomas said Scott also thought that Steven was guilty and he used Brendan to commit the murder. Thomas said everybody at the plant would be about one day ahead of what the news had been covering because of Scott talking to Barb about the case. Thomas said Scott would freely give up this information at break time and would start talking about the case out of the blue without anyone asking about it. Thomas also thought that Scott had received several calls while at work since this case had started. Thomas described Scott as being anti-law enforcement and that if he knew we were here talking to his fellow employees, he would be, quote, pissed. I asked Thomas if he had any more information to add, and he said no, not at this time. The interview was concluded at approximately 15:27 hours. Interview of Leonard J. Bouchard. On 03/30/06 at approximately 15:30 hours, Investigator Dietering and I made contact with Leonard J. Bouchard, date of birth 02/13/69. Leonard said he had been working at the foundry for approximately 20 years and has known Scott approximately 8 to 9 years. He described their friendship as just being acquaintances at work, however, has not done much outside of work with Scott. Leonard said Scott told him on 10/31/05 he had gone by his mom because she was having surgery, however, later stopped by Barbara's house. Scott had told him he had seen Steven standing by the fire and had driven by. Scott had told him prior to Steven being arrested, Steven had come over to his house and had been sitting around the kitchen table. Leonard said Scott had thought Steven was innocent at first, however, now thinks Steven is guilty. Scott had told Leonard it could be possible for Steven to do that because of the underground room by the trailer. Scott had also told him there were pants that were washed and he had seen stains on. Scott had thought Brendan was not guilty of this because Steven had forced him to do this. He felt the relationship between Barbara and Scott had been stressed because of what had been going on. Scott, page 722, had told him in the recent weeks he would be moving in with Barbara. Leonard said he feels Scott has been his normal crabby self throughout the case. However, does talk about the case freely to others. Leonard could not think of any more to add, and the interview was concluded at approximately 15:46 hours. On 03/30/06, Investigator Dietering and I also interviewed Scott Tadich. See Investigator Dietering's report for details. Investigator Wendy Baldwin, Calumet County Sheriff's Department. Page 723. Type of activity, interview of Scott A. Tadich. Date of activity, 03/30/06. Reporting officer, Investigator John Dietering. Documents generated, none. On Thursday, 03/30/06 at 15:54 hours, Investigator Baldwin and I, Investigator John Dietering of the Calumet County Sheriff's Department, did interview the following individual concerning this matter. Scott A. Tadich, date of birth 07/14/68, 12/7/64, State Highway 147, Mishcot, Wisconsin 54228, cellular phone 920-973-2222. The interview took place in a conference room at Wisconsin Aluminum Foundry, Manitowoc, Wisconsin, where Tadich is employed. Prior to asking Tadich any questions, he was advised he was not in custody, did not have to speak with us if he chose not to, and did not have to answer any specific questions he chose not to. He stated he understood this and agreed to speak with us. Tadich was questioned regarding the stains that were reported on Brendan's clothing. He stated the only stains he saw were white, and he believes he saw those stains the week that Teresa disappeared. He thinks those stains were on blue jeans that Brendan had. He stated that the laundry was never done at Scott's residence, as he has no washer or dryer. He stated that in retrospect, he was unsure as to whether he actually saw the stains or whether someone had told him about them. Tadich was asked about his specific activities on Monday, 10/31/05. He stated he spent the day in Green Bay at the hospital where his mother had undergone back surgery. He stated he came to pick up Barbara about sunset or shortly thereafter. He stated Barbara Yonda accompanied him to Green Bay, where he stayed with his mother and transported Barbara back to her mobile home at approximately 19:30 to 19:45 hours. He stated after this, he went to his residence. He stated Barbara arrived at approximately 8 o'clock p.m. or thereabouts, and he and Barbara watched TV. He specifically mentioned the program, quote, Prison Break. He stated Barbara spent the night at his residence and did not go home. He stated Barbara did go directly to work from his residence to his knowledge. Page 724. Tadich was questioned about the fire in the, quote, burn pit on Monday, 10/31/05. He stated that he saw a, quote, big fire at Stevens. He stated this was an area of the burn pit. He stated he didn't get out of his truck that evening and did not converse with Stephen. He stated he did see Stephen and another person, who he guessed was Brendan, standing at the fire. Tadich went on to indicate that Stephen has a large amount of control over Brendan Dassey, as well as the rest of the Dassey and Avery families. He states he believes this is due to the large amount of dollars that Stephen was possibly going to be coming into. He states that he observed Stephen ordering Barbara's kids around and indicated, quote, Barbara's their mom. He states that Stephen has pretty much lost support from all the family members with the exception of Stephen's mother, Dolores, and Stephen's fiancée, Jody Stachowski. He stated he has known Stephen approximately 2 years. Tadich went on to indicate Brendan spends most of his time with Stephen, and that Stephen had taken Brendan, quote, up north a lot. Scott went on to indicate his gut feeling is that Stephen had some sort of sexual relationship with Brendan, but he has nothing to back this feeling up. Tadich was asked about the phone calls he allegedly received during the week immediately after Teresa Halbach's disappearance. He stated Barbara's children never call him at work. He stated that Barbara had called the switchboard for him in the past, and he stated this was possibly on 2 occasions. He stated that one of those times was after Brendan was arrested, and then he went on to indicate that he was unsure whether there was a second call placed to him from Barbara or not. Investigation continues. John Dietering, investigator, Calumet County Sheriff's Department. Page 725. Type of activity, supplemental report. Date of activity 03/30/06. Reporting officer, investigator, Wendy Baldwin. On 03/30/06 at approximately 1800 hours, I, investigator Baldwin of the Calumet County Sheriff's Department, received a message from Keith Schaefer asking me to return a phone call reference more information that was heard at the foundry about Scott Tadich. I returned a phone call to Keith, who informed me there was a person by the name of Jay Matthews who was approached by Scott Tadich to buy a .22 rifle that belonged to one of the Barbara kids. Keith informed me Jay did work on his shift and would be available to talk to. Investigator Wendy Baldwin, Calumet County Sheriff's Department. Page 726. Type of activity, interview of J. D. Matthews. Date of activity 03/31/06. Reporting officer, investigator Wendy Baldwin. On 03/31/06 at approximately 1727 hours, I, investigator Baldwin, made contact with J. D. Matthews, date of birth 11/12/66, at a Wisconsin aluminum foundry. I spoke with Jay in the conference room located in the plant. Jay went on to say that he has known Scott Tadich for approximately 8 years. He said he was not real good friends with him, however, has been an acquaintance of Scott's. He said he has been interested in buying a .22 for his kid and had told Scott about it because he was on a forklift and could find out if anyone had a gun for sale. Jay said about a week ago, Scott said he had a .22 Savage for sale that belonged to one of Barbara's kids. Jay said he did not say which one of the kids it belonged to. However, they agreed on a price of $100. Jay said it had a scope on it and had figured it was a rifle and not a pistol. Jay said on Monday, Scott approached him and told him he could go out to his truck and look at it. Jay told Scott he was not interested in looking at the gun that particular day and told him he was going to have to wait until the weekend. Jay said today he had contact with Scott and Scott told him he never had the gun and the kid wanted to keep it now and it was not for sale. Jay described Scott as, quote, not being hooked up right, and has seen him fly off the handle at everyone at work. At this point, Jay did not have any more information to add, and the interview was concluded at approximately 1740 hours. Investigator Wendy Baldwin, Calumet County Sheriff's Department. Page 727. Type of activity: receipt of confidential report of laboratory findings from the Wisconsin State Crime Lab. Date of activity 03/20/06. Reporting officer investigator Mark Wiegert. On 03/20/06, I, Investigator Wiegert of the Calumet County Sheriff's Department, received a confidential report of laboratory findings from the Wisconsin State Crime Lab. The findings indicate that the latent finger and palm prints suitable for identification were previously observed and developed on items A17, A19, A20, and A22. These latent prints were examined and compared to standard inked palm print cards bearing the name of the following individual. Item GD, Brendan Dassey. No identifications were effective. Photographs of the latent prints will be retained on file pending any further comparisons you may request. Investigation continues. Investigator Mark Wiegert, Calumet County Sheriff's Department. Page 728. Type of activity: interview of Jody Stachowski. Date of activity 04/03/06. Reporting officer investigator Mark Wiegert. On 04/03/06 at approximately 1530 hours, I, Investigator Wiegert of the Calumet County Sheriff's Department, met with Jody Stachowski in the investigator's office at the Sheriff's Department. I asked Jody about the whereabouts of a digital camera which had been used at Stephen's trailer to take pictures, which we had recovered during search warrants. Jody indicated the camera would have been in Mrs. Avery's, which would be Dolores Avery's, possession. Jody states the camera was there while both she and Stephen were incarcerated. I asked Jody if she could describe the bed, which was located in Stephen's bedroom, to me. Jody stated it was a pillow-top mattress, seafoam green in color with flowers on it. I asked Jody if she had plastic or anything covering the mattress, to which she stated she did not. She stated the box spring was a ratty yellow and brown color. I also asked Jody if on 10/31/05 she was aware if Stephen had made any phone calls for her to a psychological associates in Madison, Wisconsin. Jody stated she was not aware of any type of phone calls made on her behalf to any type of psychological associates or any other counseling. That was the end of my conversation with Jody. At that time, both Jody and Charles Avery did go with Deputy Hawkins in order to take possession of a golf cart in Stephen Avery's car. It should be noted those items were released to Jody and Charles by Deputy Hawkins. Investigator Mark Wiegert, Calumet County Sheriff's Department. Page 729. Type of activity: evidence processing duties. Date of activity 04/10/06 and 04/11/06. Reporting officer Deputy Rick Raymer. On 04/10/06 at 09:32 hours, the evidence processing began on the assorted 5-gallon pails. The individuals at the scene were DCI Special Agent Ron Pivito, DCI Special Agent Kevin Hymeril, Dr. Leslie Eisenberg, a forensic pathologist, DCI Special Agent Tom Fassbender, Investigator Gary Steyer of the Calumet County Sheriff's Department, Investigator John Dietering of the Calumet County Sheriff's Department, Haley Cribbs, an intern working with DCI, Investigator Mark Wiegert of the Calumet County Sheriff's Department, Deputy Jeremy Hawkins of the Calumet County Sheriff's Department, and I, Deputy Rick Raymer of the Calumet County Sheriff's Department. We performed the evidence processing duties in the garage area located to the north of the Calumet County Sheriff's Department. The items were sifted on top of the scaffolding that was covered with tarps. All of the scaffolding Scaffolding was draped with tarps. Everybody entering the building was required to wear a Tyvek suit and gloves. At 0932 hours, Special Agent Pivito and Intern Cribbs began processing item number 8484. Special Agent Heimerl and Investigator Dietering processed items number 8658. Dr. Eisenberg and Investigator Steyer processed items number 8652. Items identified as non-human, such as metal objects, were placed in a Ziploc bag and back into the original container. The items were sifted through with putty knives, bamboo skewers, 1/8 inch screens, and also by hand. At 11:05 hours, Investigator Dietering had checked out and rechecked in at 11:15 hours. At 11:21 hours, Special Agent Pivito and Intern Crepes began processing item number 8644. At 11:50 hours, Special Agent Heimerl and Investigator Dietering began processing item number 8653. At 12:25 hours, all personnel were out of the area except for me, Deputy Reamer, for a lunch break. They returned at 13:30 hours. At 13:50 hours, Special Agent Fassbender checked in. Also at 13:50 hours, Special Agent Pivito and Intern Krebs processed item number 8699. At 14:60 hours, Investigator Steyer checked in. Page 730. At 14:18 hours, item number 8695 was processed by Special Agent Pivito, Intern Krebs, and Special Agent Fassbender. At 14:23 hours, item number 8687 was processed by Investigator Dietering, Special Agent Heimerl, and Investigator Weger. At 14:25 hours, item number 8481 was processed by Special Agent Pivito, Intern Krebs, and Special Agent Fassbender. At 14:56 hours, item number 8654 was processed by Investigator Steyer, Dr. Eisenberg, and me, Deputy Reamer. At 14:59 hours, items number 8663 was processed by Special Agent Pivito, Intern Krebs, and Special Agent Fassbender. At 15:37, item number 8684 was processed by Special Agent Pivito, Intern Krebs, and Special Agent Fassbender. At 15:58 hours, item number 8662 was processed by Investigator Weger, Investigator Dietering, and Special Agent Heimerl. At 16:15 hours, item number 8661 was processed by Special Agent Pivito, Intern Krebs, and Special Agent Fassbender. At 16:29, Dr. Eisenberg and I left the scene. At 16:29 hours, item number 8659 was set up for processing by Dr. Eisenberg and me. At 17:05 hours, item number 8685 was processed by Dr. Eisenberg and me. We had checked in previously at 1700 hours. At 17:21 hours, Special Agent Heimerl checked out. The rest of the special agents, investigators, and deputies checked out at 17:50 hours on 04/10/06. All items were placed into secure storage in the outside storage room. I, Deputy Reamer, had the sole key for the storage area. We began again on 04/11/06 at 08:29 hours. The personnel available on 04/11/06 were Deputy Jeremy Hawkins of the Calumet County Sheriff's Department, Special Agent Kevin Heimerl, Detective Dave Rimiker of the Manitowoc County. Let's start our review with page 721 today. We're talking to Thomas Culp, who works with Scott Tadich at the Wisconsin Aluminum Foundry, and he's one of several of the workers that have worked with Scott for somewhere between, 7 to 9, 10 years. So these people are used to Scott. They're with him on a daily basis, and they're a good character reference to understand what Scott's normal behavior is. So I hit a key and I just turned every space a color. I never knew I could do that. Okay, anyway. So what we're talking about is Scott is saying that he was acting weird and not Scott was saying that Brendan was acting weird and not himself. Scott is expressing that he thinks Stephen has molested Brendan, but it's just something that, is in his own gut, that Stephen may have made Brendan commit the murder. He's he's known for coming in at break time and offering the information about the case without anybody prompting him. And it always seems to be a day ahead of what's going on in the news. So is Scott, is he hearing this? How is he knowing what's going on with the investigation himself? I get he's with Barb, and she knows Brendan's been questioned. She knows that Brendan said some of this, but it just seems like he is redirecting all of the suspicion off himself and trying very hard to put it on Brendan and Steven. And the other thing that I don't like is that he keeps telling these people at work that he is missing work on October 31st, the day Teresa goes missing, because he's at the hospital in Green Bay visiting his mother, who had back surgery, when we know that's not true. So my problem with Scott is, where the heck was he that day? For real. Wherever it was and whatever Scott was doing that day, he could not let the cops know the real story. And so he had to make up a false story. So the fact that he can't tell us really what he was doing is a big problem that you would risk making up an alibi. That's a big problem for me. Then we go on to Leonard Bouchard, who brings up that Scott has told him that Steven could have done it because there's an underground room by the trailer. Okay, we know there's no underground room by the trailer, but hey, how'd you come up with that idea, Scott? You had a trailer. Do you have an underground room by your trailer? And as far as him doing his laundry over there, we are on a junkyard with kids. How did the man who probably, I'm just saying, what brought him to this attention? Somebody may have brought this to his attention that does the laundry, that there was bleach on Brendan's clothes. But Scott gets interviewed. And I have to say, for once, he was kind of given his Miranda warning, that you can waive your rights. You don't have to talk to us, blah, blah, blah. So I have to say kudos to John Dietering. You notice it's not Weird or Fassbender. It's Dietering. So kudos to you, Dietering, for doing it right. So he begins to ask him, and he does ask him actually about where he was. See, that's what's different in this report than the others. So let's go ahead and dig in. This was a fantastic report. It takes place at his work at Wisconsin Aluminum Foundry. And he's talking to Scott about the laundry. And apparently, the reason that Scott's never done laundry at his own house or his own trailer is he has no washer or dryer. So that means his clothes are getting mixed in with the others most likely, and that would fit the report that we're hearing about Scott with the telephone call. He states again that he went to Green Bay at the hospital and visited his mother for back surgery. Since when do we not validate that with actually checking the reference? Why is this not verified? Let's see. He stated Barb arrived at his house at approximately 8 p.m. and thereabouts, watched television, Prison Break, and spent the night and did not go home. I feel like a buzzer coming on, because this is absolutely not what happened that day. Number one, Green Bay Hospital, back surgery, mom? Nope. Picked up Barb arrived approximately 8 p.m. or thereabouts, and Barb began to watch television. She was still at her house at 9:20 as per phone call between Jody Stachowski and Steven. So, another no, it isn't there. And did you watch Prison Break? No, you didn't. How do we know? Prison Break would have been about 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock in your area. Barb didn't get to your house till 9:20. If that's indeed where you guys really went. But see, when you tell lies, you have no credibility. Page 724, talking about no credibility. Let's dig in. We're in March now. 2006, November, December, January, February, March. 5 months. And all of a sudden, he came up with this idea. He seen a big fire at Stevens. He stated he did see Steven and another person, and guess who he guessed it would be? Brendan. Does he talk about Blaine ever? No. Does he talk about Brian ever? No. Who is Scott targeting? Who is he focusing his attention on throughout everything? Steven and Brendan. What is he doing? Redirecting. Why? He has no alibi. He's volunteering too much information. Every break. That entire plant is paying attention to everything he says. He's repeating stuff the day before the news comes out. This is extremely suspicious. He states that Steven has pretty much lost the support of the family. I think this is one of the truest statements he's ever made. He states that Steven has pretty much lost the support from all of the family members with the exception of Steven's mother, Dolores, and Steven's fiancée, Jody Stachowski. That's probably true. I do believe that Steven was kind of being a butthead. And, nobody came to see him for 18 years. He's resented them. He's hurt by them. And now he wants to say, hey, I got money coming in. See, I didn't do it. I get it. Steven's human. He's got human emotions. He's pissed. And he gets back. And look at the crap that's going on at the home front. We have Marie Avery that you're going to find out coming up in this week. The real story on Miss Marie Blank Avery. And it's going to shock you. Your mouth is going to be wide open, jaw on the floor. Steven's seen things that he is not happy with. He has already told Barb. One of your kids may not even graduate at the rate they're going. We know through Bobby Dassey that him and Barb are fighting. We know through Barb he's saying, you suck as a mom. What have you done? Steven's trying to be the uncle that these kids need. And you're going to find out how much he loves these kids very soon. So let's keep reading. He stated that he had known Steven. This is straight from Scott Tadich's mouth. That he's known Steven approximately 2 years. Let's count this back and see how long that Scott Tadich puts himself knowing basically Steven Avery and Barb. Okay? So if we're in March of 06, we can go back a whole year from that to 05 to March of 04. How do you like them apples? That's right from Scott Tadich's mouth. And yeah, this whole gut feeling he has suspect that Steven is sexually molesting or has a sexual relationship with Brendan, creating a monster. He's creating the fear mongrel, to make monster of Steven, Clarice. Yeah. He states Barb's children never call him at work. So, what teenager called him at work? Probably wasn't a teenager. It was probably Barb. And he does say Barb called him on most likely 2 occasions. So, let's jump up ahead here. We're going to jump to Keith. Now, Keith called and tells us that Matthews approaches Scott to buy a .22 rifle that belonged to one of Barb's kids. This is just after, on March 30th, that Scott has learned that now the investigators believe that Teresa Habach has been shot in the head with a .22. Not before it, but after. Now, pay attention. This is the 30th of March. Scott's selling a gun. Now let's go to the 31st. Okay? Here's Jay. Jay went on to say that he's known Scott for approximately 8 years. Okay? Jay said about a week ago, Scott said he had a .22 Savage for sale that belonged to one of Barb's kids. Jay said on Monday, Scott approached him and told him he'd go out to his truck and look at it. Jay wasn't interested. But Jay said today, okay, 31st, now today, that he never had the gun. And the kid wanted to keep it now, and it wasn't for sale. So did Scott get wind that the cops were coming to talk about this specific gun? Because it's only the day after. And all of a sudden, he doesn't want to sell the gun. So Jay says, after knowing him for 8 years, that, quote, he's not being hooked up right. And then he flies off the handle at everyone. Interesting. So this gets good. Okay, page 727. This week's going to be fantastic for trying to understand this case and analyzing how some of these character witnesses actually intertwine into a relationship. And to understand the demographics of where they work and what the employers are saying helps too. So here we go. Page 727. They take A17, A19, A20, and A22, and they compare it to GD, which is an item that is Brendan Dassey's identification. His palm print cards, okay? Let's take a look real quick here. Let's see, where do we have that? So I went and I looked up this. This is a confidential laboratory report. So it's the exact report that they don't attach. I've just simply attached it for you. Down here you can see all those little numbers that they're going to talk about. So let's go back and look at the numbers. A 17, 19, 20, 22. So not 18 and not 21. No 18, no 21. 17, 19, 20, 22. Okay. I blew it up off that sheet. Now, ignore the little red circle for a minute. We're going to come back to that. So this is from the laboratory. It's put out by Michael Riddle, who also is one that looked at the Sitka keynote. For those of you that want to know what the Sitka keynote is, that's the first video I made. It's on my telephone, and you're welcome to go look at it. It's about 5, maybe 6 minutes long, and it's just basically what is the Sitka keynote, and it'll give you everything you need to know there. So I found these items, A, 17, 19, 20, 22. Not 18 or 21, but the others. We have a Sunbelt Crunchy granola bar wrapper, bottle of Aquafina water, a plastic CD carrying case, black, and a partial bottle of Aquafina water. So that's what they compare his prints to? Why didn't they compare Brendan's prints to anything else, such as the license plate sticker, or any of the 8 latent prints in this? Or why didn't they check the vinyl wheel cover? Just the stuff inside the vehicle. Like they thought while Steven was committing this crime of murder and mayhem, that Brendan was kind of leaning up against the tree, eating a Sunbelt granola crunchy bar, and drinking a couple of bottles of water with his headphones on, listening to a CD. Okay. Wow. Well, that wasn't true because no identifications were effective. 728 were with Jody Stachowski, and I just want to make a mental note that it is the 3rd of April that Jody, so she's out of jail, is with Charles Avery, and Deputy Hawkins gives the order to give the possession of the golf cart and Steven Avery's Grand Am over to Jody and Charles, so that we have that on record. And then on page 729, we're just going through the evidence, you guys, but I'll tell you what, we've got Eisenberg on board and not one Manitowoc County person on this list. So they start off with great intentions. But then, as the day goes on, we get into here. They process, and then it's the second day. And immediately they've got Dave Remacher of Manitowoc County, and we're going to cheat. We're going to go to 731. But guess who he's replaced? Remacher has replaced Eisenberg. And that is our review. A lot to think on with Mr. Tadich. That's a lot of information. It's being reiterated again and again and again by his coworkers who spend day in and day out of time with him. over 8 or 9 years with Scott Tadich. I mean, you thought you were having a bad day. Well, and you thought that was informative. You just wait. It's coming up, you guys. It's coming up. Scott Tadich. All these interviews at the Wisconsin Aluminum Foundry, and 8 or 9 years knowing you, and you are being quoted as a liar and somebody that pulls attention to yourself. So if you're a constant liar and you're drawing all this attention to yourself, do you realize you're pointing at yourself? So you continue to do so, don't you, sir? That's a compliment in saying, sir, that you don't deserve. If you didn't do the crime, you guys, you shouldn't do the time, which means Brenda and Steven should be coming home. And we're going to be starting a brand new project coming up. And it's a campaign, and it's all about the blind testing. And there's a bunch to this. I think you guys are going to be on board with this. It's a win-win. And we get to meet in the middle. Yep. We're going to work with the state of Wisconsin, and we're going to create a much better system. And in that system, it's going to protect those that are doing the testing as well as prevent a lot of wrongful convictions. So thank you for your support. Stay tuned to our channel as we start developing this campaign. And it's for every single American. And I guarantee you, there's not a reason that we wouldn't want to do this. It's only what we're looking for. Thank you and have a great evening.